The stars looked peaceful from the observation deck of Station Unity. Ambassador Sarah Chun watched ships from dozens of different worlds dock and undock like a slow dance in space. Traders from the crystal worlds of Altair brought their glowing cargo. The fish-like Aquarians arrived in their water-filled vessels. Even the massive rock beings from Titan's Belt moved their heavy ships with surprising grace. For 200 years, this had been humanity's place in the galaxy. Small, quiet, grateful to be included. "Another beautiful day in paradise," said Commander Jake Morrison, joining Sarah at the window. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate dress of other species representatives. Humans had learned early that showing off made others nervous. "The Zephrian ship is requesting immediate docking," reported Ensign Park from his station. "They're not following normal approach patterns." Sarah frowned. The Zephrians rarely visited the outer systems. They were the strongest military power in the galaxy, ruling hundreds of worlds from the bright center where stars were born. Their ships were built for war, not trade. The Zephrian vessel was a massive thing, dark metal covered in weapon ports. It dwarfed every other ship at the station. As it docked, Sarah felt the entire station shake slightly under its weight. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephrian Empire was 7 feet tall with skin like black stone and eyes that glowed red. He wore armor, even for diplomatic meetings. Behind him walked 6 warriors, each carrying weapons that could level a city block. "Humans," Kethvar spoke in the common tongue, his voice like grinding rocks. "I bring greetings from the Empire." "Welcome to Station Unity," Sarah replied with a small bow. "How can we help you today?" "Help?" Kethvar's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing teeth like broken glass. "We are not here for help, little human. We are here to inform you of changes." Sarah kept her face calm, though her heart began beating faster. "What kind of changes?" "The galaxy has been at peace too long. Peace makes species weak. The Empire has decided that certain worlds will now pay tribute to keep our warriors strong. Your worlds are small and weak. Perfect for this purpose." Commander Morrison stepped forward. "Ambassador, surely there's been a mistake. The Galactic Concordat guarantees the rights of all member species. Any disputes should be brought before the Council." Kethvar looked at Morrison like he was looking at an insect. "The Concordat protects those strong enough to enforce its rules. Your species has 12 small worlds and a handful of patrol ships. What will you do if we decide to take what we want?" "We would hope that reason and law would prevent such actions," Sarah said carefully. "The human colonies are peaceful farming worlds. They have nothing of military value. They have people who can work. They have food to feed our armies. They have space where young warriors can practice their skills." Kethvar's eyes glowed brighter. "You will provide what we ask, or we will take it anyway." The station's communication system chimed. "Incoming message from New Geneva Colony," announced Ensign Park. "Priority 1. Sarah nodded to him. The message appeared on the main screen. Governor Walsh's face was tight with worry. "Ambassador, we have a problem. 3 Zephrian warships just appeared in our system. They're demanding immediate surrender of our agricultural output, and they want 20,000 volunteers for something they call labor service." Kethvar laughed, a sound like metal scraping stone. "Your colonies are learning quickly. Smart of them." "The governor, tell them we're working on a diplomatic solution," Sarah said. "Ask for 24 hours to arrange proper negotiations through the Concordat." "Already did, Ambassador. They said we have 6 hours or they start shooting." The screen went dark. Sarah turned back to Kethvar. 6 hours isn't enough time for proper diplomatic process. The Concordat requires. The Concordat, Kethvar interrupted, is a paper treaty written by species who never faced real war. The Empire fought for 10,000 years to earn our place. You humans appeared from nowhere 200 years ago with your tiny ships and small ambitions. You think papers and committees can protect you from the strong. Sarah felt anger rising but pushed it down. Getting emotional wouldn't help anyone. What exactly do you want from us? Tribute. Every year. Food, materials, people to work our minds. In return, we don't turn your worlds into practice targets for our gunners. Cathvar leaned forward. This is generous, human. Other species we simply conquered completely. Morrison's hand moved toward his sidearm before Sarah caught his eye and shook her head slightly. Even if they could somehow deal with Cathvar and his guards, it would only make things worse for the colonies. We need time to discuss this with our governments, Sarah said. Surely the Empire can wait for a proper response. Your colonies have 6 hours. After that, we begin teaching lessons about the cost of disobedience. Cathvar stood. We chose to start with your kind because you seem reasonable. Don't make us choose differently. The Zephrians left without another word. The station felt somehow lighter without their massive ship, but the threat remained. Get me a secure channel to Earth, Sarah ordered. Priority Alpha. That'll take an hour to establish through all the relay points, Morrison said. Then start now. Sarah stared out at the stars again. In the distance, she could see the faint glow of the galactic center where the Zephrians ruled. And send word to all human colonies. Tell them to implement Condition Yellow protocols immediately. Morrison looked confused. Condition Yellow? I don't remember that from any manual. You wouldn't. It's an old protocol. Very old. Sarah's voice was quiet. I hope I'm wrong about needing it. As the emergency messages went out across human space, automated systems deep in Earth's archives began to stir. Files that hadn't been accessed for 800 years started opening. Ancient communication arrays, hidden on dark worlds throughout the galaxy, began receiving activation codes. They had waited centuries to hear dot in the depths of space. Things that had pretended to be asteroids and debris for longer than most species had existed began to wake up. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's peaceful nature had always been a choice, not a limitation. Governor Maria Santos looked out over New Geneva's golden wheat fields one last time. The 6-hour deadline had passed 3 minutes ago. Her communication system was full of desperate messages from the Galactic Concordat, promising help that she knew wouldn't come in time. Governor, the Zephrian ships are moving into attack position, reported Colonel Hayes from the command center. All civilians are in the shelters, but we both know those won't stop what's coming. Maria nodded sadly. New Geneva was a farming world with 2 million people. Their defenses consisted of a few old patrol boats and some mining lasers that had been turned into makeshift weapons. Against 3 Zephrian warships, they might as well throw rocks. The sky turned bright white as the first energy beam hit. Then another. And another. Across the galaxy. Ambassador Sarah Chun watched the destruction happen in real time through emergency broadcasts. The Zephrians weren't just attacking military targets. They were systematically destroying everything. Farms, cities, schools, hospitals. The wheat fields that had fed 12 systems burned like golden fire. 2.3 million people, Morrison said quietly, reading the final population report. Gone. The main screen switched to a Zephrian broadcast. Commander Vextor stood on the bridge of his warship, his armor reflecting the fires below. Let this be a lesson to all species who think they can refuse the Empire. The humans of New Geneva chose defiance. See how well that served them. The broadcast ended. Station Unity fell silent except for the hum of life. Support systems. Sarah's communication panel lit up with incoming calls from the Concordat Council. She ignored them all except one, a secure channel from Earth. President Williams appeared on her private screen. His face looked older than she remembered. Sarah, I've been watching the feeds. We have to respond. The Concordat will meet an emergency session, Sarah replied. They'll pass resolutions condemning the attack. Maybe some economic sanctions. And then what? The Zephrians will pick another human world and do it again? Williams shook his head. How long before every other species decides it's easier to let us be destroyed than risk their own safety? As if to prove his point, Ambassador Yethkao of the Centauran Republic called. His normally proud features looked nervous. Ambassador Chun, the Republic wishes to express its deep concern about recent events. You mean the genocide of 2 million innocent people? Sarah asked coldly. Yes, well, the Centaurian government believes that this unfortunate incident might be resolved through proper diplomatic channels. Perhaps if humanity showed more flexibility in negotiations. Sarah cut the connection. 3 more calls came in from other species representatives. All said basically the same thing. Maybe humans should just give the Zephrians what they wanted to avoid more violence. It's starting, Morrison said. They're all going to abandon us rather than face Zephrian anger. I know. Sarah turned back to the president. Sir, we need to make a decision. If we don't act now, humanity becomes slaves or corpses. The Concordat won't protect us. President Williams was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Sarah, I'm going to tell you something that's been classified for 800 years. When humanity first reached the stars, we weren't the peaceful traders everyone knows today. Sir, we were something else entirely. Something that nearly destroyed the galaxy and definitely destroyed ourselves. We made a choice after that war ended. Never again. We limited our technology, scattered our fleets, and became small and harmless. Williams paused. But we never destroyed everything. We just hid it. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What are you saying? I'm saying that the Emergency Council is meeting right now. We're voting on whether to activate Protocol 7. What's Protocol 7? The thing our ancestors hoped we'd never need again. Williams looked directly at her. Sarah, if this vote passes, humanity stops pretending to be weak. Every species in the galaxy is going to learn what we really are. And if it doesn't pass, then we keep trying diplomacy while the Zephrians kill us world by world until there's nothing left. The connection ended. Sarah sat in her office staring at the stars. Around the station, ships from other species were quietly leaving. Word was spreading fast. Being mere humans had become dangerous. Morrison knocked on her door. Ambassador, I just got word from the Concordat Council. They're calling an emergency session in 72 hours. They wanted to explore diplomatic solutions to recent tensions. 72 hours. Sarah laughed bitterly. How generous of them. I'm sure that will bring back New Geneva. There's something else. Long-range sensors are picking up Zephrian fleet movements. Looks like they're heading for 3 more human colonies. The message they broadcast says those worlds have 48 hours to surrender completely or face the same fate as New Geneva. Sarah closed her eyes. 3 more worlds. Millions more lives. And the galaxy's response would be to hold meetings and write strongly worded statements while people died. A secure communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Earth. Protocol 7 approved. All hands. Sarah stared at the message for a full minute before deleting it. Then she opened the channel to all human ships and stations. This is Ambassador Chun with an official announcement. Effective immediately, all human vessels and installations are to implement Condition Red protocols. All civilian traffic is suspended. All diplomatic missions are recalled. Any questions about these orders are to be directed to Earth Command. Morrison looked confused. Condition Red? What's that? Before Sarah could answer, her long-range sensors started screaming alarms. Energy signatures, unlike anything in the Concordat database, were appearing throughout the galaxy. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. What the hell is that? Morrison demanded, staring at his screen. Sarah watched the sensor data with growing amazement and terror. After 8 centuries of silence, humanity's true fleet was waking up. Ships and stations that had been hidden since before most current species even existed were powering up their weapons and beginning to move. "Morrison," she said quietly, "I suggest you send a message to your family. Tell them to stay away from any Zephrian ships or stations for the next few weeks." "Why? What's happening?" Sarah looked out at the stars one more time. Soon, they would be full of fire and death, as humanity reminded the galaxy why their ancestors had once ruled it all. "War," she said simply. "The kind this galaxy hasn't seen for a very long time." Commander Vextor studied the tactical display on his flagship's bridge. 3 human colonies lay ahead, their defenses pathetically weak. After New Geneva, he expected immediate surrender. Instead, he was getting strange readings from his sensors. "Report," he growled at his sensor operator. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns throughout the system. Some of the asteroids are showing power signatures." Vextor laughed. "The humans are probably trying to hide their few patrol ships behind rocks. Have all squadrons prepare for combat. This will be over quickly." What he didn't know was that those asteroids had been waiting for this moment for 800 years. In the Kepler 442 system, 3 human patrol ships moved to intercept the Zephrian fleet. They were small, lightly armed vessels that normally carried medical supplies and trade goods. Against the massive Zephrian warships, they looked like children's toys. The first patrol ship died in seconds under the concentrated fire of 6 destroyers. The second lasted slightly longer before its hull cracked and it spun away, burning. The third ship managed to fire a few shots that bounced harmlessly off Zephrian shields before it too was destroyed. "Pitiful," Vextor muttered. "Signal the colonies. They have 1 hour to surrender or join their defenders in death." That's when the asteroids began to move. At first, it looked like random debris shifting in space. Then, the movements became coordinated. Rocks that had drifted in the system for millions of years suddenly sprouted energy fields and weapon ports. Manufacturing complexes unfolded from their hidden cores like deadly flowers blooming. "Sir!" The sensor operator's voice cracked with fear. "Those aren't asteroids. I don't know what they are." Vextor watched in growing alarm as the space around his fleet filled with human ships. Not the small, weak vessels everyone knew about. These were massive constructs that seemed to bend light around them. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in the Zephrian database. "How many ships?" he demanded. "I count 47. "No, 63. "Sir, they keep appearing. It's like they're materializing out of empty space." The largest human construct was over 2 kilometers long and covered in weapon ports that glowed with contained energy. It moved without any visible propulsion, sliding through space like a shark through water. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Zephrian vessels, you have committed acts of genocide against human civilians. You will surrender your weapons and submit to judgment." Vextor snarled. "You dare threaten the Empire? We have 6 dreadnoughts and 30 destroyers. Your pathetic species has nothing that can stand against our might. This is your only warning. Fire." Vextor roared. "Destroy them all." The Zephrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons that could crack planets sent streams of deadly energy toward the human ships. Missile volleys that could devastate entire fleets streaked through space. For a moment, the void between the stars turned bright as day. When the light faded, the human ships were still there, untouched. "Impossible," whispered Vextor. Nothing can survive that kind of firepower. The human response was swift and terrible. Beams of energy that seemed to ignore the laws of physics struck the Zephrian ships. They passed through shields like they weren't there and cut through armor like paper. The destroyer ZFS Warhammer simply vanished, torn apart on a molecular level. Shields down on all ships. The sensor operator screamed. They're cutting through our hulls like they're made of air. Vextor watched his flagship's armor melt away section by section. Emergency alarms wailed as compartments were opened to space. His crew, the finest warriors in the galaxy, ran screaming through the corridors as their ship died around them. How? He gasped. How is this possible? The human voice answered as if it had heard him across the vacuum. Your species has forgotten the old histories. Before the Concordat, before your empire, before most current species even existed, humanity ruled these stars. We gave up that power because we learned the cost of dominion. You have reminded us why we made that choice. Half of Vextor's fleet was gone in the first minute of combat. The other half was being systematically disabled, their weapons destroyed, but their crews left alive. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. Retreat, Vextor ordered. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Sir, our jump drives aren't responding. Something is jamming our engines. The human ships moved closer, surrounding the Zephrian survivors. Up close, their design was clearly not from current technology. They looked ancient and alien, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Energy fields flickered around them like barely contained storms. You will not retreat, the human voice said. You will stay and learn. Your empire needs to understand what they have awakened. One of the human ships projected a hologram that filled the space between the fleets. It showed the galaxy as it was 800 years ago. Human ships numbered in the millions, vast constructs that dwarfed entire star systems. They moved through space like gods, reshaping worlds and commanding the forces of creation itself. This was humanity before we chose peace, the voice continued. We fought a war that lasted 3 centuries and nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy. When it ended, we were the only species left with the power to rebuild or to finish the destruction. We chose to rebuild. We chose to limit ourselves. We chose to become small and weak so others could grow strong. The hologram changed, showing human fleets retreating to the galaxy's rim. Ancient shipyards going dark. Massive weapons being deactivated and hidden. A civilization deliberately making itself vulnerable. For 800 years, we have kept this promise. We became traders and farmers and diplomats. We let ourselves be seen as weak because strength brings the temptation to dominate. But you have forced our hand. The murder of innocents cannot go unanswered. Vextor stared at the images in disbelief. If this is true, if you have such power, why reveal it now? Because someone must remember the cost of genocide. Because someone must stand between the strong and the weak. Because someone must enforce the laws that protect the innocent. The human ships began to pulse with gathered energy. Your empire will learn these lessons. The galaxy will remember why humanity once ruled it. And never again will you mistake our mercy for weakness. The transmission ended. Around Vextor's crippled fleet, more human ships were appearing throughout the system. Ancient guardians emerging from hiding places they had maintained for centuries. The space around every Zephrian colony was filling with weapons that had slept since, before recorded history began. In his command chair, Vextor realized that his empire had just declared war on the species that had invented war itself. They had awakened something that had spent 8 centuries learning to be peaceful. Now it was remembering how to be terrible. Admiral Chen Wei stood in the command center of Terra Station, a massive structure that had been built inside Earth's moon centuries ago. Around her, Holographic displays showed the galaxy in real time. Red dots marked Zephrian military positions. Blue dots showed human forces moving to engage them. The blue dots were winning everywhere. Report from the Vega sector, called Captain Rodriguez. Zephrian's 7th Fleet has been neutralized. All ships disabled, crews captured alive. Antares sector reporting in, added Lieutenant Park. Their orbital defense platforms have gone dark. No Zephrian resistance. What about their core worlds? Chun asked. Completely surrounded. Human fleets are holding position at the edge of each system. The Zephrians can't move supplies or reinforcements anywhere. Chun nodded grimly. In just 2 weeks, humanity had cut the Zephrian Empire into isolated pieces. 800 years of careful planning and hidden preparation were paying off. Every major hyperspace route had human ships waiting. Every important system was under surveillance. The mighty empire that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was being torn apart like paper. Admiral, called Communications Officer Kim, we're getting surrender requests from 17 more Zephrian colonies. They want to negotiate. Tell them the same thing we told the others. Complete surrender of military assets and acceptance of human authority. No negotiations. Yes, ma'am. But the Zephrians weren't the only ones learning hard lessons. The Concordat species that had abandoned humanity during the crisis were discovering that their betrayal had consequences. Ambassador Yethkao of the Centauran Republic screamed at his defense minister over a secure channel. What do you mean our entire fleet is disabled? Sir, it happened during the night cycle. Every ship in our navy just stopped working. Engines dead, weapons offline, life support barely functioning. We can't even communicate between vessels. How is that possible? The humans, sir. Somehow they've infected our computer systems. Our ships are still intact, but they belong to humanity now. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out. The Aquarian Trade Federation found their water-filled ships leaking and their crews gasping for breath. The Crystal Collective discovered that their energy-based technology simply wouldn't respond to their commands anymore. Every species that had turned their backs on humanity was learning that their military might was an illusion. The Galactic Concordat Council met in emergency session on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall, all of them afraid. Chancellor Vexmon of the Altarian Alliance spoke for many when she said, "We must discuss the human problem before they destroy everything we've built." The human problem? Ambassador Sarah Chun had arrived without warning, walking through doors that should have been sealed. Her escort consisted of 3 figures in armor that seemed to absorb light. No one asked how they had gotten past the station's security. The problem is that you let genocide happen without lifting a finger to stop it. Ambassador Chun, Chancellor Vexmon tried to sound reasonable. Surely we can reach an understanding. The Concordat has always valued peaceful solutions. Peaceful solutions. Sarah's voice was ice cold. Like the peaceful solution you offered when the Zephrians glassed New Geneva? Oh wait, that's right. You didn't offer any solution at all. Oh? The council chamber fell silent. Everyone remembered the urgent calls humanity had made for help. Everyone remembered deciding it wasn't their problem. The Centauran Republic condemns the human use of excessive force, declared Ambassador Yethkao. Your actions threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. Sarah turned to look at him. The Centauran Republic suggested we should just give the Zephrians whatever they wanted. How's that working out for you? Yethkao's face went pale. Like everyone else, he knew that his entire military was currently under human control. The humans have gone too far, announced Representative Colthaw of the Industrial Consortium. We demand they return control of our vessels immediately. Your vessels? One of Sarah's armored escorts stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice echoed strangely. You had vessels capable of stopping genocide, and you chose not to use them. Now they serve a better purpose. This is an act of war against the Concordat, shouted another representative. Sarah smiled coldly. War? This isn't war. This is pest control. We're removing the ability of cowards and bullies to hurt innocent people. If you think this is bad, you should see what we do to actual enemies. As if summoned by her words, holographic displays around the chamber showed the Zephrian homeworld. The massive planet hung in space surrounded by human ships that looked like dark stars. Their weapons were pointed not at the world, but at its sun. The Zephrian Empire has 48 hours to surrender completely, Sarah announced. If they refuse, their star goes out, permanently. The representatives stared at the display in horror. Extinguishing a star was something from mythology, not military strategy. You can't be serious, whispered Chancellor Vexmon. Billions of people live on that world. 2.3 million people lived on New Geneva, Sarah replied. The Zephrians didn't seem concerned about them. They broadcast the destruction across the galaxy as entertainment. But this is different. This is an entire world. Yes, it is. And if they don't surrender, those people will learn what it feels like to watch their world die slowly. The star won't explode. It will just fade, taking days to go dark completely. Plenty of time to think about their choices. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives began shouting demands, threats, and pleas. Sarah ignored them all until the noise died down. For 800 years, humanity kept the peace by making ourselves weak. We became small so others could be strong. We became vulnerable so others could feel safe. We trusted you to use that strength and safety wisely. She looked around the chamber at faces full of fear and guilt. You failed that trust. We can make this right, Chancellor Vexmon said desperately. The Concordat can pass new laws, create new protections. Laws? Sarah laughed bitterly. You had laws against genocide before New Geneva burned. Laws don't stop bullets, Chancellor. Power stops bullets. And from now on, humanity will provide that power. What does that mean? It means the galaxy is under new management. Every species that stood by and watched innocents die has proven they can't be trusted with military force. So you won't have military force anymore. You can keep your ships for trade and exploration, but the weapons belong to us now. And if we refuse? Sarah gestured to the holographic display showing the Zephrian homeworld. Ask them how refusal works out. As if on cue, a new transmission arrived from the Zephrian capital. Emperor Kethmore himself appeared on screen, his proud features broken by fear and desperation. We surrender, he said simply. The Zephrian Empire accepts all human demands. Please, don't kill our star. Sarah nodded to one of her escorts, who spoke into a communication device. On the display, the human ships around the Zephrian star powered down their weapons. The empire that terrorized this galaxy for 3,000 years just surrendered in 2 weeks, Sarah announced to the stunned chamber. Let that be a lesson to anyone else who thinks they can ignore justice because it's inconvenient. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and the Concordat is dissolved as of today. Humanity will be establishing a new galactic government, one with actual teeth. You'll receive your instructions soon. As the humans left, the chamber remained silent. Outside the windows, ships from dozens of species hung powerless in space, their crews waiting for orders from new masters. The age of human mercy was over. The age of human justice had begun. 6 months later, Chancellor Maria Santos walked through the rebuilt streets of New Geneva. The world that had been turned to glass and ash was green again, its cities restored by technology that seemed like magic to most species. Children played in parks where nuclear fire had once burned everything to bedrock. But these weren't just human children. Young Aquarians splashed in artificial pools, next to Centauran youngsters learning to fly. Even a few small Zephrians played in the group, their natural aggression channeled into games rather than conquest. "It's beautiful," said Governor Walsh, joining Maria as she watched the children. "Sometimes I can't believe it's real." "The reconstruction or the peace?" "Both." Walsh pointed to a group of former Zephrian warriors who were helping to plant trees. "A year ago, those soldiers would have killed every child in this park without a second thought. Now they're part of the community." Maria nodded. The transformation hadn't been easy. The Zephrian Empire had fought surrender every step of the way until humanity demonstrated what would happen to those who refused cooperation. 3 minor Zephrian colonies had simply vanished from space-time, removed so completely that even their stars forgot they had ever existed. After that, resistance crumbled quickly. Governor Santos called a voice behind them. They turned to see Captain Kim approaching with a small group of alien dignitaries. "The delegation from the Vegan Confederacy is here to sign the Protection Treaty." Maria sighed. This was her life now. Endless meetings with species who wanted to join the new order humanity had created. The Terran Protectorate, as it was officially called, offered a simple deal. Give up your weapons and your ability to make war, and humanity would protect you from all threats. Most species had accepted quickly once they saw what happened to those who refused. "Send them to Conference Room 3, Maria instructed. "I'll be there in a few minutes." As Captain Kim led the delegation away, Walsh chuckled. "Remember when you wanted to be a simple colonial governor? Now you're basically running half the galaxy, not by choice." Maria's expression grew serious. "Do you know what Admiral Chun told me when they offered me this job? She said someone has to do the hard work of being responsible for everyone else's safety. Someone has to make the decisions that keep the peace. And you said yes anyway." "I said yes because the alternative was watching the galaxy tear itself apart." Maria looked up at the sky where human patrol ships moved in perfect formation. Every species out there is still learning the new rules. They're all testing boundaries, looking for weaknesses, hoping to find a way back to the old system where the strong could prey on the weak. But they won't find one. No, they won't. Because humanity learned something from our first time ruling the galaxy. We learned that power without responsibility leads to destruction. This time, we're doing it right. A soft chime from Maria's communicator interrupted her thoughts. The message was from Admiral Chun at Terra Command. Priority transmission from Deep Space Monitoring Station. "Something you need to see." Maria frowned and activated her portable display. Admiral Chun's face appeared, looking troubled. "Maria, we've received some disturbing signals from beyond the galactic rim. Our radio broadcasts from 800 years ago, from when we first reached the stars, have apparently reached something in the dark between galaxies. What kind of something? We're not sure yet. But the response signals are using human encryption codes from our imperial period. Codes that were supposed to have been destroyed." Admiral Chun paused. "There's something else. The signals aren't just acknowledging our broadcasts. They're asking for current status reports. Like they've been waiting for contact." Maria felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Are you saying there are other humans out there?" "Humans who left during the original empire. That's what we're afraid of. The signals show technology signatures that match our most advanced imperial designs. If there are human ships returning from extragalactic space, they won't be the peaceful, reformed humans we've become. They'll be carrying the original imperial mindset. How long before they could reach us? Based on the signal delay and what we know about imperial ship capabilities, maybe 20 years. Maybe less if they have technology we don't know about. The transmission ended, leaving Maria staring at the peaceful scene around her. Children continued playing. Former enemies worked together to build something better, and the galaxy experienced its first real peace in millennia. But somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the echoes of humanity's warlike past were coming home. Governor? Walsh noticed her expression. Something wrong? Maria closed her display and forced a smile. Nothing we can't handle. After all, we've managed to bring peace to this galaxy. If we have to do it again, we will. But privately, she wondered if the galaxy could survive another meeting with humanity's original imperial forces. The current human government had spent 8 centuries learning mercy and restraint. The humans coming from extragalactic space would have spent the same time surrounded by the endless dark, remembering only conquest and domination. As evening fell over New Geneva, Maria watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and red. In the distance, human ships patrolled the system borders, keeping watch for threats that might disturb the peace. Soon, those ships might be watching for threats that wore human faces and carried human weapons. Threats that remembered when humanity ruled not through protection and justice, but through fear and absolute power. The galaxy had just learned to accept humanity as benevolent guardians. Now it might have to face humanity as it once was, gods of war returning from exile. Carrying grudges older than most civilizations, Maria picked up a small stone from the memorial garden and turned it over in her hands. The stone was made from the melted glass of the original New Geneva, transformed into something beautiful through human technology and care. It reminded her that even the most terrible destruction could be rebuilt into something better. She hoped that would be true when the Imperial ships arrived. She hoped the peaceful galaxy they had built would be strong enough to survive meeting its creator's darker siblings. She hoped that 20 years would be enough time to prepare for a war that would make the current galactic conflicts look like children's games, but mostly, she hoped that when the time came, the galaxy would remember that humanity had chosen to be protectors rather than conquerors. Because if they forgot that lesson when the Imperial fleets arrived, there might not be a galaxy left to protect. The stone caught the last light of the setting sun, reflecting it back like a small star. In the growing darkness, human ships continued their eternal patrol, keeping watch over a peace that might soon be tested in ways no one could imagine. The age of humanity's return was just beginning.